Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Easy Does It, a podcast created specifically for the amazing members of the MJ team. Rob and I are excited to be back with you again. We have a great episode for you today. This is our very first video guest host episode. Rob, tell the people who we have with us today.
I'm doing my own sound effects. We have the one and only, one of the most positive people that I know in the entire planet. She used to sit right down the hall from me, actually right next door. Now she's a little bit farther down the hall, but the positivity still remains. We have the one and only Adrienne Huy with us today.
Hey.
We're excited to have you here.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming. I know we planned this meeting a while back, and then some things changed, and it was all of this, and it was like, when can we get her in? We wanted to make sure we got you in after we worked out all the kinks, and I think we have. So we're excited to have you here. It's been a long time, but we're here.
Yeah,
right.
we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, now I don't have to be the only one to answer the would you rather this
Yes. You ready?
Okay.
I came up with this one on my own. Normally, I looked this up
Oh.
online, and I was like, we have somebody special in the house, so let me come up with this one, and I feel like it's tailored to you. Here's your would you rather. Would you rather get pulled up on stage with your favorite childhood artist in the past, or sit next to them on a 30-minute plane ride today?
Oh, Mariah Carey. I think I'd want to go on stage just to feel their energy in their moment, doing what they do best.
Yeah.
And to be in the presence of that and be fueled by that and experience that with them, totally on stage.
Yeah.
Because if we're just sitting next to each other for 30 minutes, maybe there's some good in-depth conversation, but it will probably take about 30 minutes to kind of break through
Yeah.
the barriers and the guard. But to be on stage and feel that and experience that, I don't think there's anything that could match that.
Do you think you'd fangirl if she was sitting next to you on the plane?
No. No. No.
No. Okay. Okay.
No, I might. I don't know. I think it almost would be. I'd be curious and probably ask some questions, but in a very respectful, tactful way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
Right.
You won't ever really see me be like, oh my gosh, there's
Yeah.
that person. It's kind of like, oh, man. And then observing how they handle themselves
Yeah.
and what those interactions look like. It might be a whole different view than it might not be what I want to see.
Yeah. Now that I'm hearing all that, they always say you never want to meet your heroes, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It's definitely different as you get older, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's just a whole different perspective on our childhood heroes, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't know if she's my hero though, but artist, music artist.
yeah, I was just thinking of
Yeah,
artists.
okay.
You know, somebody you
Hero's a
used to
whole
jam
different-
out back in the day, driving in the car. This was the artist you were listening to.
Yeah.
Would you rather be pulled up on stage back then or sit with them now?
Yeah. But now you've got me thinking about a hero piece, or someone that maybe I respected or really wanted to learn from and really get in their brain. Then
Yeah.
maybe that maybe it's my own rapid fire, and I'll just see what comes out of it.
I want to hear
on
what
that
this
30-minute.
is.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'll give you time to think. I want to hear that
Okay.
one.
All right.
Meredith,
Who
what
the
you got?
hero would be? Okay, so my first thought was NKOTB, New Kids on the Block. That was the very first concert I ever went to.
Okay.
I don't know that they were my favorite childhood artist, but that concert I had all the neon on. It was amazing. So I too would say up on the stage, because I just think that there would be something just like unforgettable about that experience.
Yeah.
I also too, know all the dances, so I could certainly jump up there with them.
Still today.
Yes. The side-to-side rock of the right stuff, all the things. So definitely would want to, I think, experience being up on the stage.
You know, I don't know if I've heard. You said, what was it called? What song?
The right stuff. I'm
What
not
is that?
singing it.
Did you just have to?
What does that
ask?
sound like? I just want to know what your
Right
favorite
stuff.
song was. So what does it sound like? She's come a long way. She's now singing.
Yeah. On
The
video.
third time we've got her singing on the podcast.
Yeah. So I definitely think I would say on stage. I
Okay.
think there would just be something really once in a lifetime about experiencing that, particularly for them at the height of their career.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine what it was like for them to be on stage and
Yeah.
look out at that crowd. So I think that would be, that'd be really cool to experience.
I like that. So my artist, I would love to watch Flyleaf in concert. So I've seen them one time. It's a rock band. If you don't know who they are,
No idea.
Do you know who they are? Heck yeah, education time. So Flyleaf is a rock band. The lady singer, her name is Lacey Sturm. She's amazing. I went to a concert when I was younger, and it was just amazing to watch. It's a good Christian band, and I was thinking through this, and I was like, man, I think it would be cool to get pulled up on stage, but it'd just be really cool just to sit there on a plane, even if it's 30 minutes, and just talk life, like what are you into and all that, and then maybe I can get on stage later.
Ooh,
Maybe
that's a good
use
point.
the plane ride.
Why say and, or when you can say and?
Yeah.
But I think that would be cool. I just am always curious about people's lives, and I know that it's a little bit different when you're a rock artist or you're Mariah Carey or something New Kids or something like that. It's a different lifestyle, but it'd just be curious just to, pick their brain and talk to them for a little while. 30 minutes ain't long. It probably would take you a while to break through, but I think that would be interesting.
I think I also too have even now when we see a celebrity out and about, I kind of am starstruck. So even if I sat beside them for 30 minutes, I think it would take me 25 minutes to get over myself and ask a question.
Yeah.
So I think plus two, I think, when you're an adult approaching another adult, it feels different than fangirling when you're younger. I kind of now can respect for example, we would see Steve Smith or Greg Olson or some when they were at the height of their careers with the Panthers. We would see them out at Nothing But Noodles.
Yeah.
Okay, but these people are just trying to come eat dinner with
They
their
hungry.
family. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I can see now how I might have a little bit different perspective too on approaching people and kind of interrupting their lives.
get
I
it.
guess.
I get it.
Yeah.
Little EQ.
Yeah.
I
Read
get
the
it.
room a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Adrienne, you have been here since 2020, right?
March 2020.
March 2020.
Dun, dun,
and
dun.
you have taken this organization by storm, and it's been a pleasure to get to watch that. And I was just curious, we want to hear a little bit about you. We want to hear a lot about you. And I think today is a great opportunity for us to hear your story and how you came to Morris-Jenkins and maybe what happened a little bit before that to lead you to this point. But you came in at March of 2020, and we all know things started to change right around then. But you came in right at COVID. You were here for all of
1 week.
1 week.
If that.
And
about a
then the world stopped. And then you had people went home. So before you talk about that, maybe lead us through how did you come here to MJ?
So we relocated. I'm from New York, not the city, the cool part. We relocated from New York in 2018. And I worked at a gas and electric utility company. Gosh, I started at that company. I was 23 years old. So it was one of the first real opportunities, big jobs that I had coming out of college. I started there 23 years old. I was there for almost 12 years, 11, 12 years. And my husband, James, and I, we had an opportunity. We were at a fork in the road, and we both were living in the same area that we grew up in. And that wasn't what we wanted for our future. It wasn't what we wanted for our children. So our oldest son, Josh, he was in the 4th grade. And we knew that we had to make a decision at that point if we were going to relocate before he got into middle school. And he really got just kind of deepened into, middle school and high school and what his future was going to look like. So we came down one Thanksgiving, and we came down to visit the Charlotte area. And I made reservations for Thanksgiving dinner. And I was speaking with, it was the owner of the restaurant. And I was telling him why we were coming down, why we were going to be visiting. And our initial thought was to look up in the Huntersville area. And he said, you know what? you should really look in South Carolina, Indian Land. You're going to get more bang for your buck there. It's a growing area. And we completely took a turn, and our focus of what we were looking for shifted at that point. Well, when we came down, we all just fell in love with the area.
Yeah.
We looked at communities, we looked at houses, we went to Freedom Park. We loved Freedom Park. That was one of
so
the
good,
first
isn't it?
experiences that we had. We went to a Charlotte Hornets game.
Yeah.
It was just a great experience for the kids. And at that point, Sophia was only 3 years old. So she was pretty young. So when I think back of just the ages and I look back at pictures and just the journey that they've experienced, they've been along this journey with us. So we fell in love, and James and I, we were looking at different communities, and there was one community that we really liked and we fell in love with in Indian Land, and we drove down, and the whole ride home we were just brainstorming and talking about it. And this is the biggest risk that we were probably, maybe other than choosing each other to marry. I don't know. At that point when we were younger. But this was a momentous moment for us just as a family, as husband and wife. And I joke, and I have joked, and we're both like, hey, this could have either like made or broke our marriage, because it was such just a huge moment to make a decision for. But the key piece was how we stuck together. We maintained our communication. He was always completely open to my communication, however it spewed out in whatever form, and then the same for him. So we made a choice. We put our house on the market when we got back home. So that was a whole leap. We needed all of that to come together before we could make the move. And everything was just so natural and organic. And it all came together. And it was hard, but it was also easy.
Yeah.
And I say easy in the sense of it felt right every step that we were taking. But looking back on it, I think that was a lot of our doing. It was a lot of our doing of how we were approaching it, the communication that we had, the intent that we had. We were doing it for the right reasons. And we had a vision. We had a vision for our family as we were approaching that. So it all came together. We got an offer on our house. We ended up selling it. So we came down November, and we were officially moved down by May of that next year. So
That's such
it was
a fast turnaround.
Yes, it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Now I am not a huge risk taker. James and I were talking about this the other night. I said, I plan, prepare, and protect. And that is kind of my being, right? Of, okay, we've got to plan for it, and then we've got to prepare for it, and then whatever we decide, I'm going to protect. I'm going to protect this bubble. I'm going to protect this family. He is more of the risk taker and will help me see the other side of it of, it's okay. He's like, whatever we do, we're going to do it together. We're going to get through it. This is what matters, and as long as we're strong, then we'll be able to navigate through it. So he's my, I'm older by 6 months, but he's my wise husband. So we ended up relocating down. The kids changed schools. This was just a huge experience for them. But I think the most challenging part for me was I was leaving a career in New York. I worked for the local utility company. I had a pension. I had a 401k. I started in their contact center. I was actually hired as a part-time CSR, and before I had officially started, they offered me a full-time role in their emergency services side. So we handled all of the gas leaks, all of the major power outages. I was working nonstop, and I loved it because I was working hard. I was making money. When I started at the company, I was at home. I was living at home with my family. And 2 months later, I had worked so hard and already had a plan, and I was moving out. And my mom was like, what are you doing? Why are you leaving me? And I'm like, I can do this. I need to get out on my own.
That's a big moment for any parent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Although I really only moved to an apartment complex around the corner. I did not go too far.
It feels like 300 miles to a parent.
I did not go too far.
Yeah.
But I was working 16-hour shifts like it was nothing. I would go in, I would do a double shift. We were union, so there were all kinds of incentives and overtime and shift premium and meals. And so there was just so much opportunity there to be successful monetarily.
Yeah.
So I was in that role for a year, and while I enjoyed it, that was within that time was when James and we started dating, and I realized, okay, I don't want to work these crazy shifts because I was working on a rotation. One week I could be working 4 to midnight. The next week I would be working midnight to 8 a.m. Then there might be an 8 to 4 in there. So my body and my sleep cycle was just a complete roller coaster.
Yeah.
And then when it was just me, I was just working all the time. So there were points eventually we moved in together. I'd be coming home from work and he'd be leaving. So really thinking about that, I was like, okay, I'd really like something more stable from a schedule standpoint. But I also want to get more on the management side of the business. So at that point, I went into their human resources. I was promoted into a human resources role. And that was an incredible opportunity because I was able to directly support the hiring process. And back then, everybody submitted paper applications. So we would get hundreds and hundreds of applicants for roles like CSR, for management roles, because we were the thing going in the area.
Yeah.
We were the stable company, the company that everyone wanted to work for. Within the area, we were the only gas and electric utility company, so there was nowhere else to go. Having a pension, being in a union, that stability, people were really looking for. But through that role, I was able to help support our employment process. We changed over our applicant tracking software. I oversaw the internship program that we had, which that was really cool. So every summer we would hire interns from schools across the area, all areas, and they got paid, and they got really great experience and exposure. I was able to go on trips with them, so I coordinated that. And then I wanted to learn a little bit more about the labor side, because the human resources structure was separated out, where you had one person focusing on EEOC and employment, and then you had another person that was focusing on the labor side. And the internal employees. So I was able to get some exposure there. And through that process, back then it was such a different time. Oh my gosh, it was such a different time in the sense of education, your college, at least there, they really looked at that and they really paid attention to that. So although I had a bachelor's degree in business administration and I minored in public relations, I decided to pursue a master's degree, and they had a strong tuition assistance program. But I had a moment. I actually went out on maternity leave. I had Josh at this point. I was still in that role, and I came back, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. I don't want to just be. I was basically an admin. I think we were executive assistants, an admin executive assistant in the department, and I was like, this is not it for me. But what do I need to do to get there in the meantime, right? I'm building my relationships within the organization. I have a reach to new applicants. Now I have a reach to internal employees. I was supporting different programs. I was seeking out those things to become a part of because I just wanted to learn and get that exposure. So I decided to pursue a master's degree, and I went for organizational communication and leadership, and it was an online program. So Josh, I don't think he was even a year old yet. And that was when schools were starting to come out with online programs. And I found this online program at a school nearby, and James came home one day. I applied. I went through the whole process. I don't even think I talked to him about it. He comes home one day, and
You're
I said,
going to figure it out.
Yeah. And this goes to show how incredible of a man and husband and supporter he's been from day one. He comes home, and I said, I got accepted into this master's program. I said, but it's okay. It's online. I'll be able to do it. I don't have to physically go anywhere. We got this worked out. I can do it right from our bedroom. There were so many times throughout that program that I thought, what the heck am I doing? What have I
What have I done?
What have I done? I've got a 1-year-old at home. I've got a pretty busy position. So in the course of the 2 years that I was pursuing this master's degree online, having to teach myself whatever I was learning, posting on these online boards, I got another position. So I got promoted into another role, more focused on the customer service side. So that was a great opportunity, and it was motivating too, because I could actually see the value of what I was pouring out coming back to me.
Right.
We bought our first house. James was doing some traveling for his work. All of this was happening at the same time.
Boy.
So over the course of that 2 years, at that point, we moved into our new house. I was well into the new role that I had gotten. So at this point, I now was out of human resources, and I went into a role as I believe it was a staff coordinator. And the staff coordinator focused on all of the customer service operations and their budgets, and where they were tracking month over month. So our expenses, are we tracking to budget? Where are we over on budget, under on budget? We provided all of the data and the reporting to provide that visibility to the managers and to the directors of the organization within the customer service side. We supported what was called mutual aid. So anytime there was a major storm, and in those years, we had some really, really big snowstorms that hit the area during times we weren't necessarily anticipating it. We had something called snowfall. We always had a name for the big storm that hit, something called snowfall. And one of the storms that we had, I actually went in on my maternity leave to help support it.
Wow.
So I was at a point where I was good. I was taking a few months off to be home. That was when Cameron was born.
Yeah.
But the storm hit. They needed help. And I was like, well, I feel good enough to do it. I'll come in and support it, because that was also around the clock. It was an around the clock operations. We supported mutual aid crews where we had different utility companies that would come to the area and help us with our storm restoration. So when you have...
Y'all probably drove from all the way up there to our storms down here, because we're talking about the same storms where like we have 2 snowflakes outside here and the whole city shuts down.
Similar. I mean, the feeling is the same.
Yeah,
the feeling is the same. So they would come all over, and when a storm hit there, it was like all hands on deck.
Yeah.
So we lived across the bridge, and if there was a state of emergency and you couldn't cross that bridge, all I had to do was show my badge, and they'd be like, okay, there you go.
I'm important.
Yeah, there you go. So that was kind of a thing too, where James and Josh at that point, and just as the kids grew, if a storm hit, they all knew that I was going to be gone.
Yeah.
Just because that was where I was needed. So I was in that role, and so at that point, I did go out on maternity leave with Cameron. And when I came back, I was offered a role as a supervisor in the contact center. And I will say, I did apply for that role previously. I think I applied for it twice over the course of my time in HR. And I did apply for it. So I was getting ready to go out on maternity leave right before I went out with Cameron, and they ended up filling the role with someone else. But when I came back from maternity leave, they offered it to me.
Sure.
So there wasn't another application process. And they offered me the position. But I will say, at least the first one time that I applied for it, I wasn't ready for it. Maybe I thought I was ready for it. I think I was ready for the experience of it, and to be able to learn from that moment and feel like, I don't like how this feels. What do I need to do to get better? What do I need to do to develop?
How long did it take, or what did it take for you to recognize that I wasn't right? I wasn't ready for that.
Probably within the last 5 to 7 years, maybe as I got older, and really realizing, you know what, I think I would have done fine in that position. I would have done okay, but I don't know that I would have been as good as I was when the time came. It probably would have been a lot more challenging for me. I would have overcame it. I know that. I'll say that. But it would
You
have been
overcame a master's degree in bed.
it would have been a lot more difficult to do that.
Yeah.
So I think timing is everything. I don't know that I had enough experience to be able to effectively navigate through some of those moments. And maybe I would have figured out how to overcome it, but how would I have left the person on the other side of it? I don't know. Maybe not in as well as I could have.
It's interesting the emotions that come up when you get the news that, hey, you didn't get the job, and takes you for a spin, and you're upset or angry or whatever, and it takes time, or it takes experiences, or just experience for you to find out, like, I wasn't ready for it. And maybe, I mean, I'm pretty sure you would have overcame, but the other person that come out on the other side may not be exactly the person who you are today. So I look at those as blessings, but at the moment they don't really ever feel like it, but they're really good teachers for us.
Yeah. Little blessings in disguise.
Yeah, they can be. I know what we were planning to talk about today, being the seasons of life, but even that, you say the past 5 to 7 years, like now, or the last little bit of your time while you were there is like that moment that you figured out, like, hey, I wasn't ready for that.
So I don't know that I really maybe thought about it again. Probably within the last several years of really being able to recognize that moment, or just thinking there's a naiveness, or maybe that ignorance is bliss of, I'm going to get past it, I'm going to do it. I think there's often those moments, but do we have to always challenge ourselves to that level in the sense of how are our interactions in those moments?
Yeah.
And I think I do, and maybe that goes to the seasons of life and how fortunate I have been, and my husband and my kids and our family has been for what we've been able to accomplish, but it's been hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's been I think it's okay to be hard. It should be hard, but it's never easy. And there's so many moments where we could have been like, oh, we're done with this. It's not worth it. But fortunately, the universe has aligned for us in some ways where we have stayed the course and have gotten to the other side. But I really feel like sometimes it's and maybe it's being more reflective. Maybe it's just being more reflective being here, right?
Yeah.
The last 5 years to be able to open my mind up to think that way, and to be able to receive that myself so that I can help others see that. And when I look back and I think about the timing of things, I do also believe that all those little tiny moments of decisions that we've made, or that I've made, or those forks in the road, and I decided to go down one path, have all led to this as well. Whether there was challenges, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever that looks like, just all those little tiny moments have a huge impact. And I think sometimes, just as humans, we can lose sight of that, of just those tiny little moments that have a huge impact.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's really hard to drive awareness, which I know we've talked about a lot on here, but drive awareness to those moments when you're in them.
Yeah.
Versus catching up with them later, which I feel like is maybe a little bit more often, shows up later for you. At least it does for me. But driving awareness to those moments of, this is an important moment for me. And I think going through that experience for you, you recognize has made me into the person that I am today. How can I draw awareness to those moments at the time that it happens? Because there can be a lot of changes that you can make if you recognize quicker, hey, this is a growth moment for me. This is something that I need to work on. I'm just not ready yet. That's cool. Or I'm cool with that. Or, hey, maybe my performance, the reason why I didn't get the role is my performance at the time, not the interview, but leading up to that. Mm-hmm. Somebody here said one time there was a role for a manager role that opened up, and he said 2 individuals were applying for the same job, and they were peers. And the one gentleman was like, "You ready for the interview?" And he looked at him and he laughed and he was like, "Do you think the interview starts today?" And he's like, "Oh no." Like all this time leading up to that has been an interview. So I think there's such wisdom that can be drawn from those challenging moments like that. In fact, I feel like the moments that are most challenging are the ones that are a lot of times our best teachers rather than ones that just work out. So I'm glad it didn't work out for your sake. You
That's
know,
right.
Yeah.
It created you who you are today.
Yeah.
Did you, when you guys moved down here, did you have a job?
No. So that was, I really rambled on what I did in New York. Cause that wasn't the end. Contact center. Then I was offered a position as a, director on our meter reading and collections. So that's kind of where that comes full circle, I think, of, okay, I applied for this role and I didn't get it. And now I've put in the work and I put in the time and I've challenged myself and I've gotten outside my comfort zone. And now I'm presented with an opportunity that I didn't even know was available. And that started happening. And that was the last 2 years of my time at the utility company. And that was where I really saw, and that's what made it really challenging to leave that is I have a solid future here.
Yeah.
I've really built a good pathway for myself. But what we were striving for and what the vision that we had for our family was bigger than that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about me at that time. It wasn't about, my path. It was about our pathway as a family. And that's where, again, this wise husband that I have, he said, you've created your brand. He said, your brand of who you are and what you've built and what you've done, all those skills and everything that you've developed, they're going to come with you.
Yeah.
And you're going to take that with you where we go. So whether it's here or someplace else, you're going to be able to take that and you are that brand. So no matter where you go, the opportunity is going to be there. Still. That was a hard
That's a really hard.
Wow.
How long were you there total time?
About 11, 12 years. So I think I was just about to hit another anniversary. Yeah. I think I was just about to hit my 12-year anniversary when we left. So that was a long time. And I am not, I think as I've gotten older and more mature, I've gotten more comfortable with change. And I think that comes through confidence and experience and learning that, okay, it is going to be okay. And while I might feel like I don't have control over this situation, I have enough control in what I've put into it. And there's some things that we can control and there's some things that we can't. So I did not have a job coming down here.
Yikes.
We had put a deposit on a house that we were building in 2018. So we found the community that we loved. We put a deposit on the house and we knew, okay, worst case is if I don't find a job. So James, he was fortunate enough to still be managing the team that he had up in New York from down here. They allowed him to do that. Now, that was a temporary basis. He also had to find a role down here, but they allowed that to bridge some time for us, which, again, the universe aligning. His good decision-making and his good performance allowed that. So it goes back to those tiny little moments that I don't think we realize will have an impact later on.
Right.
So no job. I did contract work when we came down here because I was like, I'll do anything. I'll do anything just to get some money flowing in, make sure that we have stability. It was not an option to not get that house, whatever that looked like. I got a few job opportunities. When I was doing the contract work, they actually offered me a full-time role. But I ended up getting an offer at another company. It was for more money. And that was the worst job I ever had. That was a job I had right before Morris-Jenkins. So thank you, Brandon and team, for that opportunity. It was a role. It was a senior operations manager for a company that truly treated their people like numbers. It felt like I was working in a machine. There was no real development. I think they thought that they were developing, but I think it was masking just not good leadership.
Yeah, other stuff. Yeah.
And I would go home every day, and it was difficult. It was a challenge because that just wasn't how I managed, the environment I wanted to work in. There were good people, but there was no ironing, sharpening iron. There was no reason. It just wasn't a great place. So I was there for just about a year, and I stuck it out because I had a bigger purpose, right, for my family, making sure that we were stable. And there were moments where I probably could have left, but I didn't want to do that because I knew I had a responsibility, but I knew the time would come. So I was researching great companies to work for in the area, and I actually did that even when we moved down, and I was looking for different opportunities and really focused in on those companies. So it wasn't like I was just trying to find any and every role. At some point, I needed some bridging, and that's why I did the contract roles. But I really wanted to focus in on an organization that I knew I could stay with and I could grow with, and I was long term because I was looking for that home feel. I came from a local utility company. I grew there. I wanted that same environment coming down here. I knew pension was probably not anything I was ever going to see again in an opportunity, which I was okay with that. But I just wanted that stability. I wanted a place that was going to pour into me just as much as I would pour into it. So I interviewed for the contact center director role, which, interestingly enough, I did see the role because it must have been a year prior when that position was posted, probably when you were in it for a little bit of time, Rob. Mm-hmm. But I didn't apply for it at that time. I think I was getting into the other role. Shame on me. Well, maybe great opportunity because
there it is.
you were able to get that opportunity too. See, the universe was aligning in its own way. Little moments.
I just warmed it up for you.
He did, yeah. But that wasn't, your pathway was completely different too.
Yeah.
And I interviewed for the role, and I went through that process, and the position was offered to me, and that was it. I was gone. There was a weight that was lifted off my shoulders to not have to go back to that last company. I am fortunate that it was an opportunity that I had. It served its purpose, right? There was a purpose for that moment. I think there was a purpose for me in finding my footing down here, finding my home down here. It served a purpose for our family, so I am forever grateful for that piece. But I think it also was eye-opening of, oh my goodness, like this is not what I want to be a part of, and I could never look at a job as just a job. James has said to me, he's like, you could be in any role, you could be cleaning toilets, and you will own that the way, to the fullest, and make sure it's done right in whatever capacity that looks like. So I couldn't just go to work and say, okay, I'm just here to do my job and put in my time. I was never built that way.
Yeah.
So that's where the challenge was, going into a place that I couldn't be a part of that. I couldn't buy into that, and it wasn't who I was at all. So this was my new blessing in disguise, coming to Morris-Jenkins.
It seems like it's amazing having you here because it's been cool to watch your journey since you've been here to where you are right now, and just this opportunity. But I see time and time again throughout this story that you've told. You just have this insane drive. Maybe it's not insane, crazy drive. Maybe it's not crazy, an amazing drive. But it's like, where does that drive for you come from?
I think it's always been there. And I've thought about this being reflective over the years as well. I think it started with wanting to be perfect, right? We probably always, people that have drive, I think there's always that underlying presence of it. Wanting to be the best, seeing things around me that I knew, okay, I don't want that to be my story, or I don't want that to be the case for me. So what do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah.
So there's always been something of, and maybe it goes back to, right, that plan, prepare, protect. I've always been that way. Whether it's, hey, I've got my independence. I'm going to go get a job. As soon as I could go get a job, I was out and getting a job because I wanted to have my own independence. I wanted to be able to support my little piddly whatever I got. If I wanted to go out to eat, I want to go out to eat. If I wanted to do whatever, I didn't want to have to go ask my parents for money because they had their own stuff that they were dealing with. So I think it's kind of always been that, hey, if I see it and I can make it happen, I'm going to make it happen. And I've always taken on the responsibility of what that looks like. And there's a good and a bad side to that.
Yeah.
There's a challenging side to that too, because it took me a long time as a wife to realize, hey, I have a partner in this. I'm not in this on my own, where I've got somebody who's here supporting me through this too. And I'm fortunate that I picked the right partner to be able to do that. But I've never been able to be stopped. If something gets in my mind, or I have a thought, or there's something I'm striving for, I'm going to keep going towards it. And fortunately, I have a partner in life that is the same way. We're just at a point now that we're aligned in what we're striving for. So what we can do is even greater because we're doing that together. And all of what we're striving for is for our family. So maybe it's that shift of growth and maturity and experience of who am I doing this for? I don't know that there's ever been I guess it is for me, but it's also for the success of it too. But I never looked at my success as individual success. It's always been, what can I do to be better, to better provide for my family, to be a better support, to protect, to plan, to make sure that, and that's unreasonable sometimes too, because we can't protect and prevent everything.
Right. Gotta have that balance.
That's right. It is hard to strike
Although
the
I try.
balance. Yeah. we gonna die trying.
Try.
Yeah. So we were gonna jump into the rapid fire questions, but I think I don't think it makes sense to do that right now.
Let's keep on rolling.
Yeah, because I think going to your story, the topic that you've chosen for today is like these seasons of change or seasons of life, and just hearing your story. I just don't even know how you moved out. Like, I of course, my 99S says, no way in HE double hockey sticks would I be moving a bazillion hours away, no job, got little kids. Like, that's crazy. But look at how that's worked out for you and your family. It's hindsight's always 20/20, of course, but in the moment, how scary that must have been. Liberating, maybe, but scary. So I guess my first question for you is, why did you choose seasons of change as the topic of anything that we could have talked about today? That was the thing that you chose.
Reflecting on just my life overall, there's always a season, right? There's always a moment of change. And when I look back from the forks in the road, before I went to, so another little nugget about me is my plan when I graduated high school was I was going to go into hotel resort management. I was going to be running some cool, crazy resort somewhere tropical. That was my plan. And I ended up pursuing a business degree, and that was a part of my plan. Why I didn't end up going to a hospitality school, I don't know. I think I didn't know enough back then. I was the first to be going to college, so I didn't really think, okay, I should be visiting all these different schools. I should be really seeing what I like. What programs do they have? I was set on Pace University, which was a school in New York, and I got accepted into it, but their financial aid program, I just wasn't getting enough money, so it was kind of, okay, do I do this? What route do I go? So I ended up pursuing a business management degree with the thought that I was going to get my master's in hospitality management, and still I was going to be running some crazy hotel somewhere.
Which I can totally see, by the way.
I can see it too.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. That it did not work out that way.
I love this hotel. It's amazing here. Look at what we can do.
I know. And when I was presented with the offer, so Central Hudson was the utility company that I worked with in New York. When the same week that I was presented with that offer for a pension, for a 401k, for stability, for a career that I knew people were trying to get into this company, I had also, in the meantime, applied to Florida International University in Miami for their hospitality program. Mm-hmm. I got the offer and the acceptance letter in the same week. So,
of course you did.
Of course I did, right?
No wonder you picked Seasons of Change.
So that was kind of where things, oh my gosh, started out. Clearly, I've shared what path I took. And that kind of goes back to maybe it's the responsibility or that independence piece where I'd like to say I'm fun and free. Ask my family. They might think something different. But that wasn't a moment where I could just be, and maybe I should have. Sometimes in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, man, what would have happened? I told James that we still would have been together. We would have been destined to be together either way. But what would have happened if I took that path and I was a little bit more free in my decision making and didn't go down the safe path? I've always gone down the safe path. And I think the beauty of just that moment of relocating and it ending successfully, and we're in a season of change right now. We'll get to that later, but that ending successfully, I think I realized it's okay to take risks. Now, there's always been a little bit of a fallback plan where even if I didn't get the job that I needed to get and we weren't able to build the house, we weren't going to lose any money. So we were always strategic about our planning and our decision making in that moment and in that big moment. But we still knew it was the best decision. And the only way for it to happen was to take some big risks to get there. Because if I waited until I found an opportunity, I mean, back then people weren't as willing to hire someone that didn't live in the area. I think we're a little bit more open to that across organizations. So it was that much harder. I came down a few times for career fairs, and those weren't quite the opportunities that I was looking for. But I think through this process and through this experience and through that season of change, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my ability and what I can bring to a situation. And I learned I'm more okay with risk and instability to get to a place that I wouldn't be able to break through if I just continued down the same path.
It's interesting hearing you say, I know you didn't say it like this, risk adverse, but you like the stability. But hearing your story, you've changed roles, continued to grow, which brings more responsibility and more pressure and more instability in things. You uprooted and moved halfway across the United States down to the better area. You moved here and without a job.
Yeah.
And then all the things. And then you get, I know this is a different part of the story, but you get an acceptance letter and you get an offer and there's just so much stuff going on. It sounds like there's a lot of instability.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it's like, it's hard for them to step into that and then still find their path. What do you feel like your secret is in that?
Just do. I think a lot. And I'm very reflective, but I don't know that I've ever gotten paralyzed by a moment. And even through different opportunities and position changes, there's still a form of stability. So I'm not worried about my ability to perform. I'm challenged in my ability to perform, and I want to make sure I perform to the highest level. But I still feel like there's some layer of that's within my control of what I can do to get there. So I think maybe instability comes from me of what's outside of my control and what can I do to prevent hardship.
Mm-hmm. What is challenge equal to you?
That is a great question. I feel like there's varying levels of challenges. One challenge might be, how am I going to get these kids to put their laundry away? We got baskets in every room. But then there's bigger challenges. And I think I've even learned to kind of let some of that stuff go. over the years and put into perspective what is important. But when I think about a challenge, I think it's something that I don't have an immediate idea of how to achieve it, or I don't have an immediate thought on how to fix it. And it's not something that is immediately instinctual or a natural response to it. I've either got to take a moment to think about it, take a moment to process it, and then put some action to it. So I think challenges for me are things that I don't have a quick answer or response or know exactly how to approach it or what action to take right away in the moment.
Yeah.
And that could be in so many different forms. It might be as simple as logistics and scheduling with the kids, or something as big as what business decision are we going to make, or we have a challenge here and we really need to make a decision.
Yeah. Well, I know seasons of life is the topic today, and of course you do some good old listening to Jim Rohn. I see you got the book there.
Yep.
It's funny.
We love props now.
Yeah, we got to put it over here. I don't think it's going to stand up.
No. Plus, I have my pages marked.
Of course you do. But he talks. I love Jim Rohn. Such good stuff. He talks about if you want to see change, you have to change. He says this so much, and throughout all the seasons of life, when he talks about the fall and the winter and the summer and the spring, of certain actions that you have to take in each. I love that when he was talking about, how in the fall, he says, fall's always going to show up, just like you have the sun rises and guess what? It sets. And he said something like, if you have somebody says, oh no, it's dark outside. He's like, they haven't been here that long, like that they don't recognize that this is how things work. But he says that some falls or some winters per se are harder than others, and that you have to deal with the challenge that comes up with each one of those. And I know that everybody views, challenge as different. And so, Meredith, how do you view challenge?
Oof. I think what Adrienne said, not knowing initially how to address it, not knowing how to it's something that makes me feel like, I haven't necessarily, because one thing I recognize kind of about Adrienne's story also is the fact that, and we've talked a little bit about this on the podcast, it's like the more times I put myself out there, the more times I do it, it's almost like we build this agency. That's one of my new favorite words right now. We build this agency within ourselves to be able to trust ourselves, to be able to handle a risk or whatever comes next. So I think a challenge to me is when it's like, I may not have a whole lot of agency in this category because I haven't had to do it yet. And I'm not really sure if my skills and what I have are the right ones for this challenge. It doesn't mean I can't work at it. It doesn't mean I can't try and figure it out. It just is... It makes me do that. Like it makes me have wait a second, I might have to dig in the depths of my toolbox here to figure out exactly how to navigate this. So I think it's anything that I haven't faced a couple of times and maybe don't lack as much confidence in my ability to be able to navigate it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Challenge, I love the fact that it's viewed differently in everybody. Everybody's life experiences teach us something about challenge. And I think it's unique, even from your perspective and your perspective on things, that challenge can be scary. It is scary, but if you view it in a productive way, then you can get a lot out of challenge. And you recognize that challenges can be great gifts, but we can't predict those. You couldn't predict your path forward. It's just like, hey, here's the data that I have right now. Here's what looks like the best path forward. I can't imagine getting a job. I think you said job offer and a acceptance letter at the same time. It's like completely different paths.
Yeah. Party or responsibility.
Right. Right.
Miami?
I know. Miami or
fine. I
just
choose
a crusty New York.
responsibility.
Yeah. Where it snows. And now I'm going to work all the time.
It snows here
during the weather.
once every 7 years.
Not in Miami.
2 snowflakes. Yeah, not in Miami.
And
That's
not
for
in
sure.
Miami. No.
Yeah.
Mojitos and sun.
You can still have a mojito you can have it
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's after this. And then you can just invite all of us to
The
be
next
there as
show,
well.
it's going to be while we have the podcast.
I think that the biggest, sometimes we white knuckle it, right? If we want to be honest and keep it real, sometimes it's just white knuckling through. And I think I'm really good at that. If there's something that, okay, I'm just going to get through this. I'm going to get past it because I know on the other side, there's something better. There's something greater. And there are some of those moments sometimes. And sometimes it's not easy to see the light on the other side, but just knowing, okay, I'm moving forward. I'm going in a direction. That's probably my biggest motivator or my biggest driver is I don't ever want to get stuck in the same place. And it's so easy to do that through comfort or through seeking stability. If I didn't get over that, and I probably was a lot, hence the pathway to, go to school in Miami or stability, I've always taken that stability path. But if I hadn't taken some of those risks along the way, then I wouldn't have what I have today. My kids wouldn't be able to see a different example and experience what hard work looks like. And
Right.
it's not easy. There's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of, oh crap, that goes into those moments. But I think through that, just getting stronger and building the agency and the confidence and the ability to more swiftly navigate through those moments in the future.
Yeah.
Now, do I still get tripped up today sometimes? Yes. We're humans and it's natural, and sometimes I do get in my own head, and sometimes I do need to have a moment with my husband who I trust and for him to, kind of talk me down on. That does happen, but I'm able to get past that. And I think that's the key piece of being able to get past those moments of, okay, I'm having a moment here, and how quickly we can get past it. We can't live there too long, or we're going to get stuck.
Yeah.
What season of life would you say you are in now?
Oh my, well.
She's like, let me unwhite knuckle myself.
Hold on. Yeah. So I was looking at The Seasons of Life by Jim Rohn. Camera.
Yes. Also in the library. Also available in the library.
Someone will get some of my underlined books because mine is from the library.
You didn't.
I did. I'm like an old school, check my book back, and someone's going to get a cheat sheet.
Yep. Me too. I highlighted.
So I was thinking about summer. And I was thinking about summer just naturally because that's the season that we're going into. But also where we're headed as a business, and what we do here at Morris-Jenkins, and just what is up ahead. And I'm going to read this super quick. Success in life is not an easy matter. Progress in any form and happiness or success in any form require constant effort, for obstacles exist that might discourage the weak and the undeserving. Overcome one obstacle in the weak and the undeserving. Overcome one obstacle in life, and another appears to fill the void. Life is designed to be a story of achievement in spite of adversity, not in the absence of adversity, for without adversity, achievement could not exist. Whoa. So I will say, I think I'm definitely in the summer season right now, personally. Starting a new role, taking on new responsibilities. That's just at work. We are in the process of building our own house, which that's been in the making for the last 3 years of just decision making and things that we decided as a family. We sold that house that we came down here that I worked so hard and was so scared to not get or be able to succeed and achieve that. We sold that house, and here we are. And little tiny decisions along the way. Who knew what we were heading towards through that moment? we're looking at colleges. Our kids are, I mean, we've got we've got so many different things going on. There's so much to be responsible for, and through that are going to be challenges. What are we going to be up against? I'm newly challenged every day, which I'm excited for that, whether it's at work or at home. So that challenge surrounds me all around. So I would say summer, because through that challenge, there is adversity. There will be adversity. There will be hard lessons learned. I'm sure I'm jacking up some things just trying to go through this college process with my first baby who is going down that path. I'm questioning, is he ready? Like, where are we at with this? Is he prepared for that? Finding balance in letting him learn, protecting, but also not hovering and not managing to the point that he isn't learning. So that's a whole world of balance.
Just parent stuff, mom stuff, dad stuff.
So hard.
All the questions we ask. Should we let our child hit the road or yet or not?
Yeah.
I know you're dealing with that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's, I feel like as they get older, I don't know what the right word is. Shallon says this all the time. It's like the consequences of their actions become larger.
Yep.
And so it's, before it was like, don't run on the street because you could fall and trip and skin your knee. And now it's like, don't run the stop sign.
And run that child over in the street.
And so it's like, it's now they're driving and it's like, making decisions about where they're going to go to school and what they're going to major in and what they want to be. And not that all those things can't be adjusted and rectified later on, but still, it's just a lot of big decision making. And as parents, we've just been such a big part of their decision making. I mean, we've made all the decisions for them up until a certain point, and so to take us a back seat and let them lead is just it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to say, for those of you who haven't read this book, because I do think the summer analogy is like, I wrote down the weather, the weeds, the bugs. So the analogy that Jim Rohn uses is, planting your seeds in the spring, which I think it's interesting to now think back. I didn't know your story either before you just told it, but like to think of all the seeds that you sowed within yourself, within your relationship with your husband. I mean, it just sounds like there's been a lot of seed sowing and the right seeds. And so then summer is where we have to protect the seeds from the weather, from the bugs, from the, the change, from college visits and all of those things, because what I wrote down is the law of the universe is faultless. As you sow, so shall you reap. So when we plant the seeds and we tend the seeds and we protect the seeds and we guide our seeds, AKA our children who don't always want our guidance, we kind of see all of that unfold. And you've already seen so many of these things kind of unfold in your life from the seeds that you've sown. It's hard to think of it that way. I think like when you read this book, of course, Jim, he's not your typical writer. You have to be ready for his type of writing when you read this book. But it's one of the things that he talks about, Rob kind of alluded to this, is like this predictable pattern of change and how things are always going to be changing. The sun rises, the sun sets, the 4 seasons. I mean, it's just, there's always this predictable pattern of change. And so I think when you see it as, how am I sowing my seeds now for later on, then you're like, okay, I don't have to solve everything right now. Let's just sow the right seeds, protect the seeds, and then we'll kind of see how things come out in the end. Mm-hmm. So I think it's interesting to hear your summer season that you're in now. What do you think will be next for you as far as seasons coming up?
Oh gosh.
Or we can't even look. We can't even look forward.
I don't know. I think just listening to you to speak, I think about back to our kids and the seeds and what comes of that. It's all in the making. And I think we're in a time of immediate gratification. And I see that with my kids and maybe more so in my oldest right now because he's down a path where he is going to have some independence. You don't always reap the benefits immediately. It takes years.
Oh, yeah.
Just even some of these things that I've shared today and really kind of hearing myself and thinking about it and realizing all of that was in the making for years. Years of moments and planning. And 3 years ago, we sold our house with the hopes that, okay, we're strategizing here. There's a risk here of we just gave up what we came down here to build and create, and really a really great interest rate and a really just the value, and we're putting some risk out there for something different, something new that we're striving for. That was not an immediate return on that. Patience and adversity and hope and faith and a lot of work and a lot of time went into that. There's a lot that goes into that. And I think people have to recognize and realize it's not always going to be immediate, but just stay the course. Just stay the course because it will be hard, and it should be hard if we are going to have that level of success in our summer season. But you also have to recognize when it isn't right. So that's a fine balance. So really being in tune to where you're headed and what you're doing, because there's a difference. There's not right, and then there's really hard, and it doesn't mean that really hard isn't right.
Yeah. Since you've been here, going back to your story, you got here right in March of 2020, had maybe a week, and as the contact center director, the whole company, we were like, everybody's going home. You dealt with a lot of challenge through that, a lot of uncertainty, and you brought a lot of stability to the organization. And then after that, you moved to being the support services director, not just managing one team, but four teams ish, something like that.
Yeah.
Give
or take every so often.
Might have felt like 20. That's a huge jump, and even more seasons, more planting, more harvesting. And you've impacted so many people's lives, being the support services director. And then recently you stepped into the COO role, which is a massive jump. First female COO in the organization. I think only the second official COO in the organization, which is a massive accomplishment. And you've had a ton of stuff thrown your way since you've gotten this role. When you think about people out there that are listening to this that may really relate to your story about, taking the safe route and like, I'm going to take a risk when I have to, but I know I have to take, it's going to be challenging. How do you find for yourself and those out there that are like you, how do you find that you juggle those scenarios where you push yourself, balancing that, but then also finding a way to juggle all that stuff at the same time, pushing and then also like finding and keeping yourself?
A big piece is my support and the people I surround myself with. There's not a lot of fluff in my day, just in general. So all those moments are really intentional on what I'm giving and what I'm also trying to get from that. I have to say the people that I work with, the support that I have on the operations team and the tactical team and just support services, just really the people that I work most closely with bring a ton of value. I am so thankful to the teams that I worked with that first week in March of 2020 when COVID hit and everyone went home, because they have made a huge contribution to my growth and what I've been able to learn and the knowledge I've been able to build over that time. And that's not just on the management side. That's Kathy Rushing was a huge contributor to just helping me learn and having really great conversation. There were days that it was just she and I in the contact center. And I am so thankful and appreciative of those moments because I was able to build a relationship. So I think that the people that I allow to get in, right? The people that I allow to take my time, and who I give my time to. And I don't want to say that because everyone is deserving of time, but I think it's what I allow in is a huge part of that through that support and being able to balance that. If there's something that is coming in that maybe is not great, well, I hope that I can share something with that person that helps turn that around for the future for someone else.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just the people I surround myself with, the support that I have, and the value exchange.
Yeah. I know when we keep people around us that are like-minded and share the same values and are drivers like you are, you're going to get a lot of that stuff back. I know a lot of times they say it's not good to live in an echo chamber of people saying the same stuff, but it is nice when you live with people and work with people that are just as passionate as you are and are drivers just like you are, because you feed off each other. This is the norm. I know in the training team, we have a lot of people that are very similar. They're big learners and like to drive, and like there's a high bar that's set on the team, and it's just the expectation, and that's where we live up to. And when you see, lower performance, or you see where somebody stumbles, it's like, hey, let me help you. And I know you've done that for a lot of people, and I know that's happened on our team a lot as well. And I think even probably in your 5 years that you've been here, in the different roles that you've been, I'm sure there's been some massive lessons that you've learned along the way.
Yeah. I learn a lesson every day.
Yeah.
Whether I got to check myself or learn how to better navigate through a situation, or just something that I'm learning to be able to utilize later on. So I think sometimes that can get lost or misunderstood, that we reach a point where we know, or maybe the lessons are fewer and far in between. Mm-hmm. But I think then you're missing the lessons that are coming your way if that's the mindset that you have. Every day there's a lesson, whether it's whatever it might be. It might be my kids might be giving me a lesson and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What lesson are you learning right now?
Oh, stop fidgeting so much in this chair.
We were talking beforehand. We went to push up earlier. I already have a hole in the chair on these bad boys.
I will say one of the biggest things that I am always consciously working on, and I think I hope I'm getting better, is just really being in the moment. That I've always struggled with that. And the more responsibility. So what's interesting about that is I probably have more responsibility than I've ever had in my whole life in this moment, just with home and juggling and work and everything. And I feel like I'm the most calm through it. And I'd like to hope it's from just the lessons and the reflection and the team that I work with and the things that I've learned over the last few years, and just even that moment of relocating and taking that risk and just continuing to build. But being in the moment has always been a challenge because my mind is going 1,000 miles a minute. I could go from seeing one little piece of something and it will spiral into about 5 different thoughts. And we're James again. Incredible man.
We love James.
Yeah, I know. We'll be watching something on TV, and then I just I see one thing, and it builds, and he'll just look at me, and he knows who his wife is. Or I'll come out of the shower, and I've got 10 different thoughts that I've had a moment of clarity to digest, and he's like, "What happens in that shower?"
It was the steam.
I think about my brain as a ping pong table of these balls going back and forth, and there being a tournament going on all at the same time. And that's something that I'm trying to work on. maybe there's value to it, but it's hard to turn that off at the same time. And it has hindered me from being right there in the moment when my kids are telling me a story or, and that's something I've got to consciously work on for the people that I interact with. So, I think your question was, what's the biggest challenge right now?
Or what lesson are you learning
What lesson
right
am
now?
I learning? That is an ongoing lesson because I know how quickly I see the years flying by with my 3 kids. And if I'm not in the moment with them, they're going to be gone. Those moments are going to be gone. And that might be even hitting me a little bit harder now that they're getting older. So I'm really, really trying to be as present and intentional as I can. But they also understand who I am and my flaws, which I appreciate that, but they're
Still.
deserving. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I feel you. So 100%. Just, I do think it is. That also is a strength of yours. You know, it's like it's sometimes it's so hard. I have often thought I didn't pay enough attention when my kids were little. Like I have a hard time now kind of drawing memory to mind about when they were little because it was just like, number one, trying to make it, you know, but then number two, it's having these ideas go through your head. That also is probably a strength of yours when it comes to strategy and it comes to being in the position that you're in. So it's hard to turn off something that's naturally happens and is also a positive in a lot of lights. But then when you want to turn it off so that you can be in the moment, it's hard. It's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life, kids, family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tabs
So
open.
tough.
That's what we call it.
Yeah.
I've always have lots of tabs open.
Gosh, I tell you, Mark made a statement to me not that long ago, and it always sticks with me when it comes to parenting is you've got 6 summers left.
Oh, yeah.
Like it hurts to say it and to hear it, but man, it really puts a ton of stuff in perspective. And you think about your life. How many summers do you have just as an individual, just as a person? You have X amount of summers. Hopefully it's 70, 80, 90 summers that you have. But you only got just this much with your kids. So it's like every vacation, every tournament, every driving lesson, Meredith, like every one of those, there's only a certain amount. And I think you're the one that told me, you will have one last tuck in. Like you tuck your girl, or your son in one last time before they're like, Mom, I'm good. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that. Like Charlie still wants to come hang out with me right now. And it's always nice sitting on the couch and she just comes plops down and leans up against me. I love that. Jack usually comes and gives me the people's elbow all the time. I told Charlie, I said, your tuck in at night is different than Jack's because usually Charlie, you know, she wants to hug you and be real sweet. And
Stalling. I think that's
it could be that. I'm coming up there, which I appreciate. But then Jack, I'll go over and his is always violent every time. He wants to punch me. And that's usually our tuck in. It's usually a rough up session, but it's cool to have those moments. But I know that those moments evolve into other things, as do our lives evolve into other things. And it's so, like you said, being present and living in those moments because they are few. But the seeds that you're planting in those moments make a big difference for the future. And the moments that you're with a manager, supervisor, even anyone in the organization, or you're there with your friends or you're teaching somebody, these moments do grow into something if we choose to plan it in the first place, then also choose to nurture and water that. It can turn into great things if we let it. Or we can drop a little seed and walk away and let it sit dry on the sidewalk, you know? So I think those moments are absolutely important.
Yeah. I go home and I think about all the people that I support. All the people that, hey, maybe I had an interaction and I took something from that interaction. How can I maybe craft that message a little bit differently where it hits them differently? And that's what's most important.
Yeah.
Is being able to, so not turning it off, I guess is okay. And sorry for anybody. I always preface, if you get a message from me late at night, don't feel like you got to respond. It's just more, I don't want to lose sight of it sometimes. Because I really am thinking, how can we bring value to the situation, or how can I help support this person in whatever they're striving for? And it might just be one moment of a thought. So I think about all of it all the time.
Yeah. Well, I do know that like Brandon or the management team, the operations team and tactical team just talked about strengths, like what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses. But we also have a lot of those strengths that can be weaknesses if they're left unchecked.
Yeah.
So even having that talent of like, I think about stuff all the time. I want to try to bring value all the time. I think that's great. But you got to, of all things, we always have to watch it. Being a great communicator, you can learn that you talk too much or maybe you overtalk. So I think every one of our talents can be great things if we manage it and watch it. I feel like when we're in organizations like this and we have the roles that we do, we all three have great impact on people. But I think thinking about the message of who do I want people to know me as, I think that's an important question to ask ourselves and to think about. And you've made massive impact on the organization. What message would you want to leave with people?
So I think sometimes we get in our own way and we limit ourselves. And the big question is, why or why not, right? Why can't we do that? And maybe the next question is, what are we doing to hinder our progress in getting there? Now, we all have talents. Are we all utilizing our talents? And maybe people need to be reflective of that and what that looks like. But who do you need to support you in utilizing your talents in the most effective way? And I think there is a ton of people across the organization that are willing to support each other through that. Fortunately, we are an organization that people don't have to go through anything alone. So don't feel like you've got to carry that weight all on your own shoulders, because there truly are people here rooting for you. Me, and I know you are, and I know you are. So just don't get in your own way and put yourself out there.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah, there hasn't been one person that I've ever asked here, could you please help me with something? And they've said no. I mean, it really is. If you there are people here who want to see everybody else succeed. All you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
There's not been one person here who has not wanted to help me or see me succeed or support me in some way.
Yeah.
So just have to reach out.
Well, I did have one thought for you. I know we have some questions for you that are just so super important. But I did want to ask. It's not often we get the CEO of the organization on the podcast and can bend your ear for some time.
Who's that? Because I'm still like, what's my title? What do I do here? I don't know that that's sunk in yet.
We got Mrs. Koo in here today. Yeah. We got the Koo in. So the organization, I feel like a lot of people in any organization want to know where the organization is going and what that vision is moving forward. And I know that you work so hand in hand with a lot of people. I know Brandon has popped into meetings and he's like, this is who I am. I know you've been in tons of meetings. And I think that a lot of times people just wonder, like, where's the organization going? Like, what's our mission? What's our heading? You know, we're all on a ship, we're moving. So what message would you want to offer to the group on, like, where your vision of where the organization is heading?
Forward. And I know that is a big, big statement. When I think about where we're headed and what we're doing, I've said this multiple times in different meetings, I am no salesperson. If you asked me to sell something, I wouldn't be able to do it. But if I am speaking from my heart and I'm speaking naturally, I can sell you because I'm pouring it out. I feel it. I'm experiencing it. And I truly, which is why and what I love about being a part of the mission and the purpose and what we're doing is our intention is so pure. And I think it goes back to that purity of, one, we're a business. Can't take away from that. We are a business, and we've got to generate revenue, and we've got to manage our expenses. That's just what a business does. But the outcome of that is our flywheel, ultimately making it easy for our customers, but also pouring that back into the organization. And pouring that back into the organization is first and foremost, and that's the people, and it's our growth, and it's the opportunities that we can provide. And I wholeheartedly believe and support that mission, and am so excited to work with a team of people that believe that as well. And that, maybe that's a very, very high overarching view, but that is where we're headed. And we want you guys out there to be a part of that. But it's going to take some work to be a part of that. It's going to take reflection. It's going to take adversity. It's going to take challenges, because in order for us to get to where we're going, we need people that are willing to put in the work to get there. We can't change that. No matter what we do in life, no matter what we do individually and personally, we can only move forward if we put in the work to get there, or we're just standing still and we're going nowhere.
Forward.
Hopefully that forward. Yep. As simplistic as that
Onward.
sounds.
Yep.
Forward.
Effort. Yeah.
Effort. Forward.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. And if it is that easy, then are we really doing, what we can?
Yeah.
Are we really challenging ourselves to be our best? And I had a meeting this morning, and I shared with the team, it starts with us. And I know Brandon has shared this, and I know he's communicated this and truly believes it. It's what we're doing individually, internally, within. All of that, that's what's most important. If we're working on that, that naturally bleeds over into our contributions as an employee, a contributor to the organization.
Right.
But it starts first with us individually. And just keep moving forward. Don't get stuck. You have people that are here to support you. You have people here that are rooting for you. You have people here that want to see you be successful. But you've also got to be real with yourself at the same time on, hey, this is what I need to work on. These are my challenges, and this is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, even with your story, you see all the moments that you were offered, that you chose maybe not always the safe path, but the challenging path that created who you are today. And even in this organization, I mean, we've been around for a long time, 1958, and we've added departments and talented and skilled people, and the vision has always been to continue to grow. And those moments of growth and adversity that we've experienced have created the organization that we are today. But one thing I know that we've all experienced and seen firsthand is Dewey used to always say all the time that when it comes to changing things, you have to be willing to change things even when they're working. And I cannot tell you, and I know I don't even need to tell you, I know we've all seen it to where it's like, hey, by the way, team, department, we're going to change this. And here's what we're going to do. Here's the why, but this is what's going to change too. And I was one of the people back in the day. I'm like, oh, why are we changing this? It's working right now. But the change towards the future is what's most important. How are we going to continue to level up? And you have to be willing to change things while they're working. Otherwise, by the time you find out they're not working, you're on the decline. Mm-hmm. And on that natural curve of a business, it's like, you don't want to get on the decline. The momentum's already rolling downhill. We want to keep it going up. And so with that forwardness, we have to be willing to change things. And there's going to be a lot of change going forward. It's just the expectation. But if you look back, how many things have we changed as an organization up to this point? There's always change.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing constant is change.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so leveling up that. Isn't just looking at what's wrong, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, man, I jacked this up. Oh, man, I did this wrong. I got to fix this. It doesn't always have to, we got to be self-aware.
Yeah.
But it could just be, man, we haven't really pushed the needle forward in a while, or this is good, but could it be better? And I think those are the questions that we've got to ask ourselves more often, or not be afraid to ask ourselves, because it's not all about, oh man, this is jacked up and we got to fix it. Or man, I keep doing this wrong. We should be reflective in those moments, but also this could be going fine. It could be going well. But that doesn't mean that we can't improve and do better.
Yeah, to me, level up, I'll give you an example. So I'm doing so proud of these people. Next week, I'm offering our first level up class on crucial conversations, and that class filled up. I put the seat capacity at 15, and within 2 weeks, that class was full. That to me is leveling up. That's 15 people who decided I'm gonna pour into myself because I want to make myself better, which in turn will make me a better teammate. It'll make me a better husband, wife, daughter. It doesn't matter. That to me is like one of my examples recently of leveling up. I don't think a class like that has filled up ever. Surely not that fast. And the one that I'm offering in May is also already full. So to me, that's leveling up. That's people who are deciding to invest in themselves, maybe, and there are people on that list who have never come to an MJU class before, which tells me that they've made the decision to put time into themselves for whatever reason. And so to me, that's kind of where that's an example of how we tap in and we look for the opportunities and the ways we can be supported to get better. So shout out.
I just love that.
I know.
People signing up for classes.
I know.
Freaking go.
I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we got some questions for you.
Oh.
I'll let Meredith do this. I feel like I've been talking too much.
The rapid fire
You want to do rapid fire or you want to roll into
songs.
music?
Yes.
I know she wants to talk about some music.
Yes. Well, this is a woman after my own heart here.
I feel like you could have, what is it, Groovy Gains? I feel like she'd be the
yes.
first one to sign up for Groovy Gains.
Oh, is that the dance class?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, it's still a work in progress. Okay, okay, so we ask every guest host to tell us their 5-song playlist. Now, we'll see where you fall on the spectrum. Some people follow our directions perfectly when they come on to guest hosts, and some do not. I'm sure if we gave you a list, you could probably imagine who was who. So if you could give us your top 5 song playlist, what would it be?
Okay, so I was prepared for this. This was my other side of being somewhat prepared and not fully winging it, or I thought about it. See, that thinking piece. So on my Apple Music, I have a heavy rotation mix. So no judgment, okay? Because there's a lot of layers to Adrienne here. That's probably a whole different podcast. So my number 1, and this list will change. It changes on the season.
She's in the summer right now.
Figuratively and literally. So my number 1 right now is The Weeknd, Cry For Me. So that's a new song that he has out.
So the rule is on the pod, if we don't know what these songs are, you have to sing it.
That's not the rule.
I just made that up.
I'll play it for you.
I'll have to listen to it later.
Number-
But that's the weekend.
Yep, that's
Okay.
my number 1.
All right.
I like it. And I'm not as up to date on The Weeknd's been a known artist, but like the new music, sometimes I got to figure out who's singing it. I'm not as cool as I.
Is this number 1 or
This is my
just...
number 1. I'm a heavy rotation
Okay.
mix.
Okay.
Number 2 is Get Low by Lil Jon.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, I knew there would be one of those on
going on
there.
in my car on my ride home.
I've seen you in your car on the ride home. Adrienne sit back, got the steering wheel cocked back. She's in the back. I've seen you. I barely see the top of your head, but you're rolling.
Number 3. So some of this, I'm like, where did this come from? But it's been playing. Number 3 is T-Pain, I'm Sprung.
Love it.
Number 4 is T.I. Live Your Life.
There you go.
And number 5 is BB Rexa, Bad Biatch. So there's an eclectic variety there.
Yes,
but then
I see
if I
that.
scroll down my list,
There's
I've
a
got
theme,
Mariah
though.
Carey.
There's a theme.
I've got some Morgan Wallen, some Kane Brown, some Dan and Shay. I have a very big variety, and this is my heavy rotation.
Yes. So you've already answered this question. The question is, what does this playlist say about Adrienne?
Layers upon layers.
I'm very complex. See, that is very self-reflective.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Stable but complex.
Would you want to have? So I know you said Mariah Carey earlier. Would you like to meet any of these artists over her on this list?
No.
No, she'd be the number one.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. They're just people. I don't know.
right.
I'm more
It's Mariah
tapped
Carey.
into their talents. Maybe not them as a person, but more interested in their talents and just the music side. But I feel like there's so much great music out now.
Yeah.
There's just so I don't know. And I take that back in the same sense because some music that comes on the radio, I'm like, what in the world are they saying?
Oh, yeah.
What the heck is going on? But if there's like a really good beat and it's just kind of deep and raw and energetic, I like it.
Yeah.
Usually I'll be attracted to a song before the artist. It's the actual beat of the song, like
Yeah.
the production of it.
But I feel like that happens so often. You have people like, oh, I love this song. And then you go back and you're like, did you listen to the words? It's like, did you know
Yeah.
what they said or whatever? And it's like, no, I just liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is kind of how music is. I mean, you think about how music kind of formed. It's like you felt the beat and you felt the rhythm of the whole thing. You add words to it. It adds a story. Some people got some ratchet stories though, but hey, that's just how it is. You got to get low sometimes, right, Adrienne?
That's right.
Window to the wall.
Okay. The layers.
That probably means something.
The
that
layers. You know what it means. She knows what it means.
Forgive me.
Our CO, folks.
No
love that.
judgment.
I love that.
Okay, so I guess we'll finish it off. We have two things left to do. So our last guest was Shallon. She left a question for you, and then we're going to ask you to leave a question for our next guest. Okay? All right, so here's Shallon's question for you. How do you see your circumstances influencing who you are, and in what ways are you taking charge of overcoming the obstacles you face?
So I have this Mr. Jenkins told me quote that came out of one of the newsletters probably shortly after I was hired. And I cut it out, and it's been taped on my computer monitor in the 6 office moves that I've had the last 5 years. And I've changed monitors, and I've untaped it and taped it back. It might even be the same tape from the very beginning. I probably had to add a few layers, but Mr. Jenkins told me, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. And the first time I read that, I felt it. It stuck with me to the point this has been sticking by my computer on my computer monitor for about 5 years now. And it is so true. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We can find an excuse for everything.
Oh, yeah.
For anything. But that's just us selling ourselves short and not giving ourselves a chance to succeed in whatever that is. So next time anybody has an excuse for something they can't do, I want them to come to me and tell me that they found an excuse for something, but then I also want them to also tell me what they did to overcome that and what they actually did to try it out, and were they successful in accomplishing whatever they were setting themselves out for.
Don't be bringing no excuses up in Adrienne's office now.
That's right. She's going to help you find a way.
It's okay if you tell on yourself and say, I first had an excuse, but then I did this.
Sure.
But if you are doing that, I want to hear about it.
I love
And
it.
celebrate you for accomplishing it.
Yeah. Okay, what's your question for our next guest?
Oh. That was a great question that Shallon had.
That is a good question.
That was a great question. So I think I shared a little bit about it earlier, and it goes back to the why not, right? So if we've ever had a moment where maybe we didn't go for something, or maybe we weren't able to make a decision, or we weren't able to overcome a moment, why not? And really think about why that was the case, and maybe look back and see if that's still the case.
Okay.
So it's along the lines of
Mine was not as succinct as
It's okay.
No, that's okay.
Shallow
I
was.
wrote down why not. I mean, you
Yeah.
were talking about it's simple. So you are faced with a circumstance,
Yep.
problem, whatever, and whatever decision you made, maybe it wasn't in the direction of that. You're saying why not?
Yep. Why not? And have that moment of, is it possible now?
Yep. Doesn't Jim Rohn say, why not? Why not you? Why not now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Which goes back to you'll find an excuse or you'll find a way.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like
Okay. That's a doozy. Can't wait to see who's next up on on the list of guest
that.
hosts.
Sometimes the most simple questions are the hardest. It's
That's
just like,
right.
I'll just do it tomorrow. Why are you doing that tomorrow? Why not today? Why not?
Yeah, we'll have to dig in, see what
Dadgummit, Adrienne.
see what the guest host has been making excuses for.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll appreciate that.
I'm sure they will.
All right, I think that's it.
Yeah.
First video co-hosted episode in the books. We appreciate you taking time to be here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This was fun.
This was fun.
It is. It's always time. It's fun to just take time to be with each other and to have these conversations. And I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to learn more and know more about you. I'll be coming to see you to figure out how to get through driving and college.
Oh, yeah.
and
We can get through it together. I'm
Yep.
still getting there.
you'll have sown all those seeds. Yep.
I mean, probably the biggest takeaway that I have today is from the window to the wall. That's my big takeaway.
We'll leave it at that.
I'm sticking with that one.
All right. For more tips, follow Easy Does It on Apple or Spotify. And my new little tidbit, subscribe on YouTube so you'll never miss a new episode. Thank you for listening. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Peace, love, and Easy Does It.
Hey, appreciate y'all.